India rises on the world map, like a continent masquerading as a country, an enormous stretch of ancient memory and modern ambition. For an American viewer, imagine a nation where Silicon Valley-level tech hubs operate just miles away from centuries-old temples, where billion-dollar startups coexist with villages shaped by timeless rituals, and where the world's largest democracy attempts to move in one synchronized rhythm despite speaking more than 1,000 dialects. This is India, chaotic, poetic, unpredictable and increasingly indispensable to global politics. With a population crossing 1.4 billion, India isn't just a country. It's a seismic force in the 21st century. Its urban centers Mumbai, Delhi, Bengaluru, Hyderabad glow like restless circuitry on a geopolitical motherboard. Economists see India not as an emerging player anymore, but as a major pillar of the global economy, poised to become the third largest economy within the decade. But beneath that rise is a landscape of sharp contrasts. Breathtaking innovation shadowed by persistent poverty, rapid modernization challenged by infrastructure gaps, and a loud, argumentative democracy that somehow holds together a kaleidoscope of ideas, faiths, identities, and aspirations. Historically, India has survived empires, invasions, and colonization, yet its cultural backbone remained unbroken. The country's philosophy rooted in resilience, debate, and reinvention still shapes its politics today. Its geographic location gives it strategic weight, bordered by nuclear neighbors Pakistan and China, flanked by the Indian Ocean's major trade routes, positioned as a counterbalance in Asia's power calculus. For Washington, New Delhi is no longer just a regional partner. It's a key node in the architecture of the Indo-Pacific strategy. India's influence stretches from Hollywood collaborations to Mars missions, from global medical supply chains to digital public infrastructure used by millions daily. It's a land of contradictions woven into coherence, a place where democracy is loud, messy, and remarkably durable. Yet, in the middle of this colossal landscape stands a single figure who has shaped India's recent trajectory more profoundly than any other leader. In the 21st century, Narendra Modi, his rise didn't just alter the nation's politics, it redefined its identity on the global stage. To understand his leadership, one must first understand the nation he leads: vast, restless, ancient, and unapologetically ambitious. This is India, and this is the stage on which one man's journey would become a defining chapter in modern world politics. Boy from the railway town. Before Narendra Modi became a household name in world politics, before the global summits, the televised speeches, the diplomatic handshakes, there was a young boy in a modest railway town called Vadnagar, a place where dust rose with the early trains, where small homes stood tightly packed, and where life moved with the sound of vendors, school bells, and temple bells echoing through narrow streets. Modi was born here in 1950, just 3 years after India's independence, into a nation still trembling from the aftershocks of partition and into a family with limited means but unshakable discipline. His father ran a small tea stall near the local train station. It was not a glamorous upbringing. It was survival, routine, and responsibility. For a young child, Standing beside a steaming kettle wasn't a dream, it was duty. And yet, those hours watching strangers, travelers, and workers come and go carved something into him, an understanding of people, their struggles, their tone of voice, their desires. The railway platform became his earliest classroom. Growing up in a joint family meant that space was limited and expectations were high. Modi wasn't the loudest in the room, but he was observant, always watching, always absorbing. His childhood was shaped by scarcity, but also by the moral codes of a traditional Gujarati household. Wake early, help the family, stay disciplined, respect elders, honor commitments. The boys in Vadnagar played in open fields and dusty lanes. Modi wandered beyond that, drawn to local saints, gatherings at temples, and community events that whispered of a world larger than his surroundings. But hardship lingered like a second shadow. There were days when money was tight, when dreams seemed unaffordable, and when the future looked no bigger than the small tea shop. Yet, every challenge seemed to sharpen him instead of weakening him. There was a quiet fire inside, a hunger to grow, to move, to rise. People who knew him back then often recalled the same detail. He was different, not rebellious, not reckless, just unusually focused for a boy his age. As if he carried in his pocket a map no one else could see. From the crowded platforms of Vadnagar to the corridors of global power, Modi's journey began with a simple truth. He came from almost nothing, and that nothing became the foundation of his ambition. Mind in the making, the education of a future leader. Narendra Modi's education wasn't a straight line, it was a winding path shaped by circumstance, curiosity, and a stubborn determination to outgrow the limits around him. Vadnagar's schools were simple buildings, chalk dust air, wooden benches, windows that opened to crowded streets. But for Modi, these classrooms were gateways. Teachers remember a boy who sat in the front, not because he wanted attention, but because he wanted clarity. Every word, every idea. He wasn't the top scorer in every subject, but he was unusually drawn to debate, storytelling, and the art of persuasion. Even as a teenager, he could command attention with his voice steady, deliberate, carrying an authority far beyond his years. He joined the school's drama team, often playing characters much older than himself. The stage wasn't entertainment for him. It was training. It taught him posture, projection, rhythm skills that would one day define his political identity. Outside the classroom, his education expanded in unpredictable directions. Modi spent hours in the town library, flipping through newspapers, reading about world leaders, wars, revolutions, and India's chaotic transition after independence. He wasn't just studying facts, he was studying power, strategy, and human behavior. Yet his formal education was interrupted by economic realities. College was not immediately accessible. Ambition had to wait while duty called. But the pause didn't kill his hunger. If anything, it broadened it. In his late teens, Modi left home, traveling across India, Himalayan retreats, ashrams, spiritual centers, seeking answers about purpose and discipline. These journeys didn't give him degrees, but they gave him perspective, a deeper understanding of hardship, sacrifice, and the emotional architecture of ordinary citizens. Years later, Modi would complete higher education through non-traditional routes, earning political science degrees, expanding his academic foundation. But by then, his real education had already come from the road, the people, and the relentless self-discipline he cultivated like a private religion. Influences during this period were eclectic. Nationalist thinkers, reformers, monks, grassroots organizers, each one shaped a layer of his worldview: self-reliance, order, duty, assertiveness, and the belief that leadership required both emotional isolation and public connection. By the time Modi returned from his travels, he wasn't just older, he was sharper, harder, and clearer about his own direction. His mindset was no longer emerging, it was formed, and it pointed unmistakably toward public life. The first spark, stepping into public life. When Narendra Modi returned to Gujarat after years of wandering across India, he didn't come back as a drifter searching for purpose. He came back with a blueprint, quiet, unspoken, but unmistakably firm. The ordinary boy from the tea stall was ready to step into public life, not through privilege or connections, but through relentless grassroots engagement. His first steps were small, almost invisible: volunteering at community events, helping during local crises, organizing youth activities. These weren't glamorous tasks. They were the slow, unrecognized building blocks of leadership. Modi wasn't seeking applause. He was seeking discipline, structure, and a deeper role in shaping society. That path led him to the RSS Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, a nationalist volunteer organization where hierarchy was strict, expectations were high, and commitment was non-negotiable. For a young man with limited resources but immense drive, the RSS offered something precious: a stage to work, learn, and lead. Modi began as a simple Prokarak, a full-time worker who traveled from village to village, slept in cramped rooms, ate with locals, observed their struggles, and understood the pulse of grassroots India. These early assignments were tough. The days were long, the conditions harsh. Yet Modi embraced the grind with an almost monastic discipline. It was during this period that observers first noticed a defining trait: his ability to organize chaos into order. Whether it was a relief effort after a flood, a public gathering, or a youth program, Modi transformed scattered volunteers into sharp, synchronized teams. He listened intently, spoke sparingly, and executed with precision. Small-town leaders began to take note. But the journey wasn't smooth. He faced resistance, skepticism, internal challenges, and the constant question: can a boy from such a humble background truly rise in public life? Nothing came easy. He had to prove himself repeatedly through consistency, not connections. Modi's early failures were private but formative. Plans that didn't work, events that collapsed, strategies that backfired. Each setback toughened him. But instead of stepping back, he stepped deeper into responsibility. Every stumble became a lesson, every doubt a fuel source. By the late 1970s, Modi was no longer just a volunteer. He was emerging as a problem solver with unusual stamina and strategic clarity. The sparks of leadership were visible now. He was preparing for a larger stage even if the world hadn't noticed yet. He wasn't famous, he wasn't powerful, but his journey into public life had begun, and it wouldn't stop. Rise through the dust. The first political battles. Narendra Modi's political ascent didn't begin with grand speeches or national headlines. It began in the dust-filled lanes of Gujarat face-to-face with citizens, local leaders, and the unforgiving realities of grassroots politics. The 1980s were a turbulent decade. Economic uncertainty, social unrest, and shifting political alliances created a volatile landscape. And in that turbulence, Modi found his testing ground. His early political work was far from glamorous. Long journeys on crowded buses, nights spent on borrowed cots, days filled with endless meetings under makeshift tents. But Modi approached it with military precision. He wasn't just participating. He was observing, analyzing, adjusting. He developed a reputation for meticulous planning every event, every route, every gathering mapped with detail. This was the beginning of Modi as a strategist. He rose quickly within the BJP's Gujarat unit, not through charm, but through competence. He could mobilize thousands with limited resources, organize campaigns with near-clockwork accuracy, and deliver messages with clarity that resonated across villages and towns. His early speeches weren't theatrical. They were sharp, structured, and grounded in the everyday struggles of ordinary Indians. People listened because he sounded like someone who had lived their lives, not someone speaking above them. But assent brings friction. Modi faced rivals who questioned his age, experience, and unconventional rise. Some saw him as too ambitious. Others felt threatened by his discipline and independence. Yet these early political battles forged a trait that would define his future: leadership, resilience under pressure. He learned to navigate internal party politics, manage egos, diffuse conflicts, and protect his vision without burning bridges. Modi's first real test came when he was assigned to manage statewide campaigns. It was here that his fire became visible. He brought order to chaotic systems, revived dormant party structures, and expanded the BJP's presence across Gujarat in ways few expected. His talent for communication, direct, emotional, confident, began attracting attention far beyond his state. Victories came slowly, then suddenly. With each campaign, Modi's influence grew. With each assignment, his voice carried further. And with every step, his hunger intensified, not for personal glory, but for larger responsibility. The dust of Gujarat had given him his first battleground, and he had proved something undeniable. He wasn't just rising, he was rising with purpose, precision, and an unbreakable will. Crossing the threshold, entering national politics. By the early 1990s, Narendra Modi had outgrown the borders of Gujarat's political theatre. His work, methodical, disciplined, and unexpectedly effective, had drawn the attention of senior national leaders. What began as quiet fieldwork now transformed into an invitation to the national stage. The move wasn't ceremonial. It was strategic. India was entering a turbulent political era, and the BJP needed organizers who could transform grassroots momentum into national power. Modi arrived in New Delhi not as a polished politician, but as a relentless worker with a reputation for turning chaos into order. The capital, however, was an entirely different battlefield. Power here wasn't won on dusty roads. It was negotiated in backrooms, strategy meetings, and late-night discussions that shaped national direction. Modi adapted quickly, silently, effectively. He was appointed to roles that demanded sharp political instincts, managing nationwide campaigns, strengthening party structures, and expanding influence in states where the BJP had weak or non-existent presence. This was the period when his talent for micro-level planning fused with a new macro-level vision. He studied voter behavior, demographic patterns, media landscapes, and political psychology with almost scientific rigor. National politics introduced him to powerful allies and powerful rivals. Some welcomed his rising influence. Others questioned his rapid ascent. He stepped into alliances that required careful diplomacy and into ideological battles that demanded unwavering conviction. The pressure was immense, but Modi operated with an unusual eyes fixed on long-term strategy, not short-term applause. One of his biggest contributions was helping the BJP rebrand itself for a new generation of voters. He understood narrative, how stories shape perception, how messaging builds identity, how symbolism can drive political momentum. His communications approach began transforming the party's public image, giving it sharper clarity and stronger resonance. But this rise was not without strain. Modi worked long hours, often isolating himself from personal comforts and social life. Critics accused him of being too authoritative. Supporters admired his discipline and commitment. In this friction, his leadership style became clearer, firm, determined, and intensely focused on results. By the mid-1990s, Modi was no longer just a state-level organizer. He had become a crucial architect of national strategy, quietly, efficiently shaping the party's trajectory. During an era of coalition governments and political instability, the national stage had tested him, challenged him, and sharpened him, and it was preparing him for something larger, far larger than even he could have predicted. The ascent, road to the Prime Minister's chair. By the early 2000s, Narendra Modi had moved from strategist to statesman, stepping into the role of Chief Minister of Gujarat, a turning point that would ultimately propel him toward national leadership. His tenure was marked by rapid economic transformation, aggressive development policies, and a governing style that blended strict discipline with high-voltage public messaging. As Gujarat rose in industrial confidence, Modi's national visibility rose with it. But the road to becoming Prime Minister was neither linear nor gentle. It was shaped by political storms, internal debates, and fierce national scrutiny. Still, Modi's reputation as a decisive administrator, someone who could cut through bureaucracy and deliver results, began resonating across India. In a country fatigued by coalition politics, corruption scandals, and economic slowdown, a growing population started looking for a leader who felt strong, singular, and sharply focused. Modi fit that silhouette. Inside the BJP, the question was delicate. Should Modi be projected as the national face? Senior leaders debated, factions emerged, alliances were tested. His rise would shift the balance of power inside the party, and everyone knew it. But his organizational history, his grassroots roots, and his ability to electrify public rallies gave him a momentum that was impossible to ignore. Then came the turning point, the 2013 announcement naming Narendra Modi as the BJP's prime ministerial candidate. From that moment, The national election became something larger than politics. It became a movement. Modi traveled across India at an exhausting pace, speaking at thousands of rallies, weaving a narrative of hope, ambition, and economic revival. His speeches sharp, emotional, and crafted for ordinary voters connected with millions who felt unseen by the political elite. Digital strategy became a weapon. Modi's campaign used social media, hologram rallies, and targeted messaging with unprecedented sophistication in Indian politics. His image transformed from a state leader into a national phenomenon. Crowds swelled, slogans spread, and the political atmosphere shifted. The 2014 election wasn't just a contest, it felt like a referendum on India's future. And when results were announced, they brought a political earthquake, a historic majority, the first in decades for a single party. The boy from Vadnagar, who once served tea at a railway station, had now risen to the highest office in the world's largest democracy. The ascent was complete, but the real test of power was only beginning. The first 100 days, rewriting the mood of a nation. When Narendra Modi walked into the Prime Minister's office for the first time in May 2014, the atmosphere inside New Delhi carried a mix of anticipation and disbelief. India had given a sweeping mandate, something unseen in decades, and that mandate arrived with a silent question: how fast can change begin? Modi knew the symbolic weight of the first 100 days. They were not a period for slow orientation. They were a live demonstration of intent. From day one, he projected authority wrapped in discipline. Meetings began on time. Files moved faster. Communication tightened. Ministries that once operated like islands were pulled into coordinated alignment. For a bureaucracy used to drift, this was a jolt. His first big message came through action, not speech. Cleaning the system. Modi launched the Swachh Bharat mission, not as a sanitation project alone, but as a national psychological reset, an attempt to shift how citizens viewed responsibility and civic pride. Few expected a prime minister to wield a broom. Fewer expected it to spark a nationwide movement. Yet it did. Foreign policy, too, took an unexpected turn. Modi invited leaders of neighboring countries, including Pakistan, to his swearing-in ceremony, an assertive diplomatic gesture signaling India's re-entry onto the global stage with confidence, dialogue, and calculated visibility. Within weeks, he traveled to key partners, re-establishing India as a proactive global actor after years of cautious diplomacy. Economically, the first 100 days were a blueprint for a more ambitious India. Modi pushed for streamlined processes, direct engagement with investors, and rapid approval reforms. He emphasized manufacturing, entrepreneurship, and technology as the arteries of a new economic vision. His messaging was consistent. India would no longer be seen as a hesitant market, it would be seen as a competitive one. On the domestic front, he introduced the Jan Dhan Yojana, a program to bring millions of unbanked citizens into the financial system. It wasn't just a policy, it was structural inclusion, expanding the reach of governance to families long ignored. Yet the first 100 days were not without critics. Some felt the pace was more symbolic than structural. Others questioned whether the new tone was sustainable. But supporters saw something different, a government operating with urgency, clarity and direction after years of drift. In those early weeks, one truth became clear: Modi hadn't come to manage the status quo. He had come to reset the system, change the rhythm, and declare a new national tempo, remaking the republic, domestic governance, and reform waves. As Narendra Modi settled into power, his governance project expanded far beyond symbolic gestures. He approached India, a vast, complicated, sometimes chaotic democracy, as an engineer approaches a machine, identify the weak links, tighten the bolts, redesign what no longer works, and modernize what must move faster. The result was a sweeping series of domestic reforms that touched nearly every sector of Indian life. Modi's first major priority was the economy. India's financial arteries were clogged with red tape, outdated regulations, and bureaucratic friction that slowed investment and innovation. To counter this, he pushed for the Make in India initiative, an aggressive campaign to transform the country into a global manufacturing hub. The message was bold and unapologetic. India was open for business, on new terms, with new confidence. Next came a push for infrastructure: roads, railways, power grids, ports, and digital networks. Modi understood that development was not abstract. It was physical. It had to be seen, touched, and used by millions. Mega projects were launched to electrify remote villages, build modern highways, expand airports, and bring high-speed internet to rural districts. India's map began changing, district by district. Healthcare reform arrived through the Ayushman Bharat program, one of the world's largest public health insurance initiatives, designed for the poorest families. It offered financial protection during medical emergencies and intervention that saved countless families from falling into poverty due to health care costs. For critics, it was overwhelming in scale. For supporters, it was transformational. Education reforms aimed to bring digital learning, upgraded infrastructure, and modernized curriculum to millions of students. Programs for skill development and vocational training reflected Modi's long-term vision, a workforce ready for a tech-driven global economy. But no domestic reform was more disruptive or more controversial than the 2016 demonetization move. In a sudden televised announcement, Modi invalidated 86% of India's currency to combat corruption and black money. Supporters called it a bold strike against illicit wealth. Critics called it economically risky. The debate became national, emotional, and deeply polarizing, but it revealed Modi's willingness to make high-stakes decisions with massive consequences. Despite challenges, setbacks, and intense political resistance, one theme defined Modi's domestic governance: urgency. He governed as if time were a shrinking resource, pushing India through rapid change at a speed the bureaucracy had rarely experienced. For millions, it felt like a nation accelerating. For others, it felt like a nation transforming too fast. But no one could deny India was changing. The world stage opens. India's new foreign policy playbook. When Narendra Modi stepped into global diplomacy, he did not walk, he arrived. The world took notice. Leaders who once viewed India as a cautious, slow-moving power suddenly saw a nation stepping forward with unmistakable intent. Modi treated foreign policy not as ceremonial duty, but as high-stakes geopolitical theater. where India needed to play a leading role, not a supporting one. His diplomatic style was unmistakable, direct, personal, high energy. He built relationships through gestures that landed like headlines, bear hugs. With world leaders, unexpected visits, bold speeches, and public events attended by thousands of Indian expatriates. The global Indian diaspora became a political force, a soft power army amplifying his message on every continent. The United States emerged as a central pillar of Modi's foreign policy, from addressing a packed crowd at Madison Square Garden to forging deeper defense agreements. Modi and successive American presidents found strategic alignment on counterterrorism, technology, energy, and Indo-Pacific security. India was no longer seeking a seat at the table. It was shaping the agenda. In Asia, Modi maneuvered through a complex chessboard. His government strengthened ties with Japan, South Korea, and Southeast Asian nations, building economic corridors and defense partnerships aimed at balancing China's expanding influence. At the same time, India maintained cautious engagement with Beijing, dialogue mixed with firmness, cooperation mixed with competition. Russia remained an old but essential partner. Modi's approach was pragmatic: preserve defense ties, expand energy cooperation, and keep Moscow close, without alienating the West. It was diplomatic tightrope, walking calculated, calibrated, and visibly confident. In the Middle East, Modi achieved what few Indian leaders had: unprecedented closeness with both Israel and key Arab states, defense deals with Israel, labor and investment agreements with the UAE and Saudi Arabia, and stronger ties with Iran, showcased India's ability to operate in multiple rival spheres without losing trust. At the United Nations, Modi framed India as a voice of emerging nations pushing for counter-terrorism frameworks, climate equity, and a long-overdue reform of the UN Security Council. His speeches were assertive, sometimes confrontational, always unmistakably nationalist. But critics argued that Modi's diplomacy was too personality-driven, too show-oriented, or too reliant on optics. Supporters countered that he restored India's global visibility and elevated its strategic value. Regardless of opinion, one fact was clear: India was no longer a silent observer in global politics. Under Modi, it had stepped into the light, loud, visible, influential. When the heart learns to whisper back, night settles like a soft cloak over the world. And somewhere inside this silence, the heart learns a new language. It's not loud, it doesn't shout, it whispers. And in these last 10 nights, those whispers finally begin to answer the call they've ignored all year. Something inside wakes up, like a lantern remembering it was born to glow. This is the phase of Ramadan where believers stop negotiating with themselves. There's no more maybe tomorrow, no more I'll pray after I finish this. The heart becomes sharper, more awake, almost trembling with urgency. It's as if every soul hears an ancient reminder: paradise is close, closer than your own breath. In these nights, when a person stands for prayer, it feels different, less mechanical, more alive. The mind stops wandering and begins returning like a humbled traveler. Every ayah feels heavier, every sajda feels deeper, and every whisper of dua feels like it's traveling upward without delay. Something subtle happens inside. The heart stops resisting surrender. It starts leaning in. That's the moment transformation begins. You don't need fireworks. You don't need a miracle scene. You just need that silent click inside your chest, the feeling that you are finally talking to Allah, not just talking at Him. These nights teach you that sincerity isn't loud. It doesn't need big words or dramatic speeches. It just needs you, your real self, the one carrying mistakes, regrets, hopes, and broken pieces. Allah doesn't ask for perfection. He asks for honesty. Believers in these nights begin to understand this deeply. They stop pretending to be strong and start praying from their wounds. They say things they've never admitted to themselves. They cry in ways they didn't expect. They ask for things they were scared to ask. And they realize being real is the most powerful form of worship. The seeker begins tasting a strange combination of vulnerability and power. Vulnerability in front of the Creator. Power in breaking the chains of the ego. The world still looks the same on the outside, but inside, something shifts quietly, like a door being unlatched. This is the night when the believer realizes the heart doesn't just listen to Allah. The heart answers back, and that answer soft, trembling, but sincere becomes the turning point in the search for Jannah. Nation in motion, social welfare, and civil reforms. As the sun rises over India, its vast landscapes from bustling cities to remote villages come alive with the energy of millions striving for a better life. At the center of this massive machinery of change stands Narendra Modi, a leader whose vision for social welfare has reshaped the lives of ordinary citizens. His tenure has been marked not only by ambitious economic policies, but also by a relentless focus on social programs aimed at lifting the marginalized, empowering women. The Modi government's flagship initiatives are audacious in scope. Take the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, or Clean India Mission, a campaign that sought to eradicate open defecation and elevate sanitation standards across the country. Millions of toilets were built, but more than bricks and mortar, it represented a shift in national consciousness, hygiene as a shared responsibility, dignity as a universal right. Similarly, the Jan Dhan Yojana program revolutionized financial inclusion, bringing millions of previously unbanked citizens into the formal economy, enabling access to savings, credit, and government subsidies with a single bank account. Healthcare and nutrition became focal points as well. Modi's government expanded access to essential services, particularly in rural areas where systemic gaps had persisted for decades. The Ayushman Bharat scheme, for instance, provided health insurance coverage for over 500 million people, a staggering scale of intervention, unheard of in most democracies. And yet, it wasn't just about policies, it was about perception. Modi's narrative positioned government programs not as charity, but as rights and entitlements for the nation's citizens. Women, historically underrepresented and underserved, found their champion in initiatives like Beti Padhao, a campaign aimed at reversing gender imbalances and promoting education for girls. In parallel, rural electrification, clean cooking fuel distribution through Ujjwala Yojana, and housing initiatives under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana sought to bridge the urban-rural divide, bringing the benefits of development to the farthest corners of India. Yet, these reforms are not without critics. Implementation challenges, bureaucratic inertia, and sociocultural barriers constantly test the resilience of these programs. But for Modi, the mission is clear: transform the social fabric of India, empower the vulnerable, and build a citizen-centered governance model that promises dignity, opportunity, and hope. In the complex dance of Indian politics, these reforms represent more than legislation. They are Modi's statement to a billion-strong nation, a leader who seeks not just power, but tangible change, whose imprint is visible in the lives of the people he serves. The journey of social reform under Modi is ongoing, a testament to his unyielding drive to reshape society, one program, one policy, and one citizen at a time. Engine of growth, India's economic transformation. India, a nation of 1.4 billion, has always carried the weight of extraordinary potential. Yet its economic landscape was riddled with challenges: sluggish growth, fragmented infrastructure, and regulatory bottlenecks. Narendra Modi stepped into this arena with an audacious vision to turn India into a global economic powerhouse while reshaping the lives of ordinary citizens. Under his leadership, the country embarked on one of the most ambitious economic journeys in modern history. Central to this transformation was the Goods and Services Tax, or GST, a single, unified tax framework designed to replace a labyrinth of state and federal levies. It was controversial, disruptive, and logistically complex, yet it streamlined trade, formalized the economy, and increased transparency, laying the foundation for a more business-friendly India. Modi's government didn't stop there. The Make in India initiative sought to revive manufacturing, attract foreign investment, and position India as a global hub for innovation. Industrial corridors, modern ports, and smart cities were envisioned as the veins of a new economic organism, pumping growth across the nation. Technology became both a tool and a catalyst. The Digital India campaign revolutionized access to government services, digital payments, and connectivity, bringing millions into the online economy. Startups flourished in this environment. India became the third-largest startup ecosystem in the world, producing unicorns and tech innovations that rival Silicon Valley in scale and ambition. Financial discipline and bold reforms further defined Modi's economic strategy. Demonetization, a shock move targeting black money, sent ripples across the nation, forcing a reckoning with cash-based corruption while simultaneously accelerating digital transactions. While controversial and polarizing, it reflected a willingness to make high-stakes decisions in pursuit of long-term reform. Foreign investment surged as Modi cultivated relationships with global leaders and international corporations, projecting India as a destination of opportunity. The nation's GDP growth, once teetering, achieved new highs, and millions of jobs were created across urban and rural sectors, reshaping aspirations and opportunities for a rising middle class. Yet, the journey was not without friction. Inflationary pressures, rural distress, and the complexities of global markets posed constant challenges. But Modi's economic narrative was never just numbers. It was a vision of empowerment, of making growth tangible in everyday life, whether in electrified villages, digitally connected citizens, or a new generation of entrepreneurs daring to dream bigger than ever before. In this high-stakes economic theater, Narendra Modi positioned India not as a follower, but as a challenger, a nation rewriting its economic destiny under the unyielding ambition of a leader, determined to leave storms of power, crises, challenges, and controversies. No leader's journey is without turbulence, and Narendra Modi's ascent to power has been shadowed by a series of crises and controversies that have tested his resolve, judgment, and political acumen. In the theater of Indian politics, where diversity and dissent collide, Modi has faced challenges that range from economic shocks to social unrest, each episode revealing both vulnerability and resilience. One of the most seismic moves in his tenure was the demonetization of 2016 on overnight invalidation of high-denomination currency aimed at curbing black money, counterfeiting, and corruption. The move polarized the nation. Millions of ordinary citizens stood in long lines at banks, grappling with cash shortages, while critics questioned the suddenness and its economic impact. Yet, Modi framed it as a moral and structural reset, a necessary jolt to move India toward a digital and transparent economy. Religious and social tensions have also been flashpoints. Policies like the Citizenship Amendment Act sparked widespread protests, challenging the nation's unity and testing Modi's ability to balance governance with social cohesion. Allegations of favoritism, political centralization, and questions about press freedom have become recurring debates, painting a portrait of a leader who is as polarizing as he is popular. Economic challenges, too, have tested his stewardship. Slower growth cycles, rising unemployment, and agricultural distress prompted scrutiny, demanding nimble policy responses and crisis management skills. Global events, the pandemic, oil shocks, and international trade tensions further complicated the landscape, forcing Modi's administration to make rapid, high-stakes decisions in an increasingly interconnected world. Yet, crises are also revealing moments of leadership. Modi has shown an ability to recalibrate, communicate directly with citizens, and harness narrative to maintain legitimacy. His speeches, social media engagement, and public campaigns have often turned controversy into opportunity, reinforcing his image as a decisive, action-oriented leader unafraid to confront adversity head-on. In the broader view, these challenges underscore the high-stakes nature of leading the world's largest democracy. For every policy misstep or social backlash, there is a counter-narrative of resilience, adaptation, and the pursuit of long-term objectives. Modi's career is, therefore, a study in contrasts, the triumphs of bold vision alongside the frictions of governance, the applause of millions shadowed by the critique of many. The story of Narendra Modi is not just of policies or power, it is a saga of a leader navigating storms. A figure who has learned that to command a nation as complex as India is to embrace both its glory and its chaos with unwavering determination. The mind of a leader, psychology, and work ethic. Behind the public persona of Narendra Modi, the speeches, the campaigns, the global summits lies a mind finely tuned for power, strategy, and relentless execution. Understanding Modi is to peer into a psyche forged by early hardships, discipline, and a singular obsession with results. His leadership is not accidental. It is meticulously calculated, a blend of charisma, strategic foresight, and an almost ritualistic work ethic that leaves little room for conventional leisure. Modi's days begin before sunrise, a rhythm that reflects both discipline and introspection. Reports suggest his morning routines are sacrosanct, combining meditation, physical fitness, and a meticulous review of national and global developments. Every decision is approached with preparation, backed by data, intelligence briefings, and scenario planning. This is a leader who thinks in layers: political, economic, social, and international before taking action. Communication is his instrument of influence. Modi speaks directly to the citizenry, employing a narrative style that is emotive yet strategic. Every speech is carefully crafted to resonate with identity, nationalism, and progress, turning complex policy into compelling storytelling. Social media amplifies his reach, allowing him to bypass traditional filters and speak to millions instantaneously. It's a modern manifestation of psychological acuity, shaping perception, commanding attention, and guiding public sentiment. Strategic thinking permeates every aspect of Modi's leadership. Whether negotiating with global powers, managing party dynamics, or navigating domestic crises, he demonstrates an acute sense of timing and leverage. His political moves often mirror chess-like precision, anticipate opposition, calculate risk, and position for long-term gain. It is a style that blends patience with boldness, caution with decisive action. Yet, his psychology is not purely analytical. Modi exhibits a deep understanding of symbolism and ritual. Public appearances, national addresses, and personal branding are infused with cultural and emotional resonance. This is a leader who knows that power is as much about perception and narrative as it is about policy. Critics argue that such intensity may alienate colleagues and centralize authority. But for supporters, it represents focus, clarity, and unyielding dedication. In the modern age of global politics, where leaders are constantly measured not just by action, but by perception, Modi's leadership style is a masterclass in balancing both. Ultimately, Narendra Modi's psychology and work ethic reveal a man shaped by discipline, driven by vision, and relentless in pursuit of objectives. In the theater of world leadership, he is a figure whose mind, more than his office, defines his power. India on the world stage, global power ranking. In the crowded arena of global leadership, where influence is measured in both soft and hard power, Narendra Modi has emerged as a figure who demands attention. India, already a rising giant with a billion-plus population and a growing economy, has leveraged his leadership to carve out a formidable presence on the world stage. Under Modi, the nation's footprint in global affairs has expanded, reshaping perceptions, alliances, and strategic calculations across continents. Modi's approach to international power is multifaceted. Economically, he projects India as a hub for investment, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Initiatives like Make in India and Digital India signal not just domestic reform, but global ambition. positioning India as a competitive player in manufacturing, technology, and trade. Foreign investors increasingly view India as a reliable, reform-oriented market, a reputation that enhances both soft and hard power metrics. Diplomatically, Modi has cultivated relationships with the world's leading powers and emerging economies alike, summits with the United States, China, Japan, and European Union. Leaders are carefully choreographed exercises in signaling influence, building partnerships, and negotiating leverage. His Act East and Neighborhood First policies reinforce India's role as a strategic balancer in the Indo-Pacific, while his outreach to global institutions like the United Nations underscores India's growing voice in multilateral decision-making. Soft power, too, has surged under Modi. India's culture, tech-savvy workforce, and global diaspora serve as extensions of influence, amplified by Modi's own charisma and global media presence. International awards, appearances at Davos and G20 summits, and strategic speeches on climate, security, and trade broadcast a narrative of India as a responsible, modern, and assertive nation. Yet, global power ranking is not without contest. Competing giants, regional conflicts, and domestic challenges create friction. Analysts debate India's trajectory compared to China or the United States, weighing population, economy, military, and global perception. Modi's leadership style, decisive, centralized, and narrative-driven, both strengthens and complicates India's position, balancing bold ambition with the risks inherent to rapid geopolitical ascent. Ultimately, Modi has transformed India from a reactive regional player to a proactive global influencer. In metrics of influence, visibility, and strategic partnerships, the nation has climbed the ladder of global power, with Modi's leadership at the helm. For the American audience, this is a story of calculated ascent, a leader who has taken a historically inward-looking nation and projected it onto the global stage with audacity, strategy, and relentless momentum. Milestones of a statesman, awards, achievements, and records. Narendra Modi's rise from a small-town boy in Vadnagar to the helm of the world's largest democracy is punctuated by milestones that define not just a career, but a legacy. Awards, honors, and historic records have followed him across continents, signaling recognition for his leadership, vision, and transformative initiatives. Each accolade tells a story of a leader whose influence transcends borders. Domestically, Modi's tenure has shattered conventional political records. He is among the few Indian leaders to win consecutive national elections with a decisive mandate, reflecting both popular support and strategic acumen. Under his leadership, voter engagement reached new heights, with record-breaking turnout in multiple elections, a testament to his ability to mobilize the nation and inspire political participation on an unprecedented scale. Internationally, Modi's impact has been equally striking. He has received honorary doctorates, global leadership awards, and accolades from countries recognizing India's growing role on the world stage. Time magazine listed him among the 100 most influential people, multiple times highlighting his ability to shape global discourse. His presence at forums like the United Nations, World Economic Forum, and G20 summits underscores recognition of India as a strategic and economic power under his leadership. Beyond formal awards, his government's programs have set records in implementation scale and social impact. The world's largest financial inclusion drive, the largest sanitation campaign, and rapid expansion of digital governance infrastructure are measurable achievements that reflect audacious vision translated into tangible action. Millions of citizens benefited from health insurance programs, rural housing schemes, and energy access initiatives, all reflecting a leader who prioritizes measurable impact alongside political influence. Some of Modi's records are symbolic yet powerful. The largest social media following for a political leader globally, millions attending public rallies, and a singular ability to command attention across diverse demographics. These numbers are more than statistics. They signify the depth of connection he has cultivated with citizens at a personal, emotional level. Yet, beyond awards and records, the deeper achievement lies in shaping a narrative of transformation. A leader who turned ambition into execution, vision into policy, and historical legacy into a living, evolving reality. For the American audience, it's a story of a statesman whose milestones are not just personal victories, but markers of a nation's metamorphosis under one leader's extraordinary resolve. Behind the curtain, the human side of power. Narendra Modi, the global statesman and political juggernaut, is often seen through the lens of speeches, policies, and headlines. But behind the public persona lies a man shaped by solitude, discipline, and a deeply personal code that anchors his extraordinary life. Understanding the human behind the power reveals layers of introspection, ritual, and resilience rarely glimpsed by the world. Modi's upbringing in a modest household in Vadnagar instilled values of hard work, frugality, and dedication. Early responsibilities, from helping his family with household chores to selling tea at the local railway station, forged resilience and humility. These formative experiences continue to influence his personal habits, rigorous routines, disciplined schedules, and a relentless work ethic that few can match. Even as Prime Minister, Modi reportedly begins his day before sunrise, combining meditation, physical exercise, and careful review of national and international developments. Family and personal relationships are understated but central to his life. While public appearances rarely showcase intimate details, it is known that the bonds with his mother and later his extended family shaped his sense of responsibility and grounded his ambitions. Modi's personal life reflects simplicity, modest living, avoidance of ostentation, and a preference for direct communication over formalities. His hobbies, reading, writing, reflections, yoga, and walking, offer moments of introspection amidst the unrelenting pressures of leadership. Religious faith and ritual play a profound role in Modi's private world. His daily practices, visits to temples, and participation in cultural ceremonies reveal a man who draws strength from spiritual grounding. These elements provide both solace and guidance, shaping his decision-making in ways that are rarely visible but profoundly influential. Yet, beneath the discipline and spiritual devotion lies a human being who grapples with the weight of responsibility. Long hours, constant scrutiny, and the expectations of leading over 1 billion citizens are not abstract burdens. They are deeply personal challenges that require emotional resilience. Modi's ability to navigate these pressures reflects both strength and vulnerability, a duality that humanizes a figure often viewed only as a political icon. For the American audience, this intimate portrait offers perspective. The leader commanding international stages is also a son, a thinker, and a man shaped by humble beginnings. The human side of Narendra Modi reveals that power is not merely about authority, but about the inner life that sustains it, the habits that sharpen it, and the values that anchor it amidst the turbulence of global leadership. Blueprint for tomorrow, Modi's vision for India. As the sun rises over India, Narendra Modi's vision stretches far beyond the immediate horizon. For a leader who has already reshaped domestic policy, global diplomacy, and social welfare, the future is not an abstract concept, it is a meticulously charted blueprint. Modi's long-term strategy revolves around transforming India into a self-reliant, globally respected, and technologically advanced nation. A vision that blends ambition with pragmatism. Central to this vision is the idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India. Modi's economic blueprint emphasizes local manufacturing, innovation, and strategic independence, aiming to reduce reliance on foreign supply chains while boosting domestic industries. Infrastructure projects, smart cities, industrial corridors, high-speed rail networks are not just engineering feats. They are pillars in a larger narrative of modernization, designed to propel India into the league of advanced nations within decades. Technology and digital governance are equally vital. Initiatives like Digital India, AI adoption, and fintech integration aim to create a seamless interface between citizens and government services, fostering transparency, efficiency, and inclusivity. Modi envisions a country where technology empowers the marginalized, connects rural regions to urban economies, and positions India as a global hub for innovation and entrepreneurship. Education and youth development are at the heart of his long-term strategy. Programs to skill young citizens, expand higher education, and promote STEM learning are intended to unleash India's demographic dividend by nurturing talent and encouraging startups. Modi hopes to cultivate generations capable of competing on the global stage while addressing domestic challenges like unemployment and inequality. In foreign policy, Modi's vision is equally ambitious, strengthening regional influence, forging strategic alliances, and projecting India as a responsible global power are central pillars. Climate action, energy security, and regional stability are not peripheral goals, they are essential components of India's future identity in an interconnected world. Critics question feasibility, pointing to bureaucracy, socio-political divides, and global uncertainties. Yet, for Modi, vision and execution are inseparable. His blueprint combines pragmatism with ambition, signaling a long-term roadmap where India is not merely reactive to global trends, but a proactive shaper of them. For the American audience, Modi's vision offers a story of transformation, a leader crafting a future for 1 billion citizens while asserting India's place on the global stage. It is a narrative of determination, foresight, and relentless pursuit of a tomorrow where India is strong, self-reliant, and respected, an enduring testament to a leader whose gaze always remains fixed on the horizon. Legacy in motion, Modi's global impact. The story of Narendra Modi is not confined to the borders of India. It is a tale that resonates across continents, a testament to the power of vision, strategy, and relentless execution. From the crowded streets of Vadnagar to the halls of the United Nations, Modi's leadership has reshaped his nation and altered global perceptions, leaving a footprint that will be studied for decades to come. Under his stewardship, India has emerged as a decisive player on the world stage. Economically, the nation has accelerated its transformation from an emerging market to a global powerhouse, attracting foreign investment, fostering entrepreneurship, and asserting itself in technology, manufacturing, and digital innovation. Millions of citizens, for the first time, have felt the tangible benefits of these policies: financial inclusion, improved infrastructure, healthcare access, shaping a society more confident and connected than ever before. Diplomatically, Modi has recalibrated India's position in global geopolitics. Strategic alliances with the United States, Japan, and the European Union, combined with engagement in regional forums and multilateral institutions, have amplified India's voice in issues ranging from climate change to security. His ability to navigate complex global networks has positioned India as both a partner and a counterbalance in an increasingly multipolar world. Yet, global impact is measured not just in economics or diplomacy, but in symbolism and influence. Modi's leadership has projected a narrative of modernity intertwined with cultural pride and nation, embracing progress while honoring its identity. This duality has reshaped perceptions abroad, elevating India from a peripheral player to a nation whose choices ripple far beyond its borders. Internally, the legacy is equally profound. Social welfare initiatives, reforms in governance, and ambitious national programs have left lasting imprints on education, healthcare, and rural development. Controversies, crises, and political turbulence have tested the nation, but they have also highlighted a leadership style unafraid of bold action, strategic risk, and decisive intervention. For the American audience, Modi's story is a blueprint in global leadership. A man who transformed a billion-strong nation, asserted influence in a crowded world order, and left an indelible mark on history. Whether celebrated or critiqued, his global footprint is undeniable, testament to the power of vision married with relentless execution. In the final analysis, Narendra Modi's impact is not just political, it is societal, economic, and cultural. It is the story of a nation transformed under one man's unyielding ambition, a global stage reshaped by strategic foresight, and a legacy that will continue to influence the trajectory of India and the wider world for generations to come.